All right, let's start off with the Ja Morant news because according to ESPN's Shams Charania, Ja Morant was suspended 1 game for conduct detrimental to the team. Now, this comes after they had a game versus the LA Lakers, which is on national TV, so everybody's watching, right? And in this game, he is so passive. In this game, he's not trying. He genuinely is not trying. It looked like, from my point of view at home, like him quitting on his team in that moment of time. And apparently, Tomas Isalo, if I'm pronouncing his name right, exchanged some words with Ja Morant about his leadership and his effort in front of the entire team. And as teammates and staffers looked on, Ja Morant responded in a way that they thought was inappropriate and dismissive. So he got a 1-game suspension. And man, this is a lot for Ja Morant. This is a lot from Ja Morant. This is what I will say. Right now, Morant is close to being left behind by the NBA. Now, I don't mean in a sense that he's going to lose his contract and be a free agent and have to play overseas, but I need y'all to remember how we talked about Ja Morant just a few years ago. We talk about young up-and-coming players in hoops, 25 under 25. Ja Morant was towards the top of these lists. Actually, if you go to ESPN's, they do the NBA rank every single season. Going into this year, he was ranked the 33rd best player in basketball. The year before that, he was 20. The year before that, he was 25. But the year before that, the league decided in the 22 season that the ESPN insiders decided that Ja Morant was the 9th best player in all of basketball. When you talk about the future faces of the league around that time, Ja Morant's name had to come up at the 2nd or 3rd name. Now, how far you got to go on that list before you think about Ja Morant as the face of the league? Part of that is, of course, the off-court issues that he's dealt with, which I'm going to put that in the past, but obviously there's something going on with his demeanor. There's something going on that people don't like. Last year, they had a coach in Taylor Jenkins, they had a coach in Taylor Jenkins for a long time, who tried to revolutionize their offense. Ja Morant wasn't rocking with it. So much so that Taylor Jenkins got fired. Straight up, not just him, the guy that they also hired to bring in that offense, and that guy went on to the Miami Heat, and Miami Heat are one of the most fun teams in basketball to watch right now. They incorporated this no ball screen, free-flowing offense, and Ja Morant didn't really love it. In Ja's defense there, he is a high ball screen player, right? You want to get Ja Morant downhill, and that offense didn't necessarily allow him to do that. He had to break his man off the dribble by himself more times than not. Cool, it's not for you. But for us to be 6 games into the NBA season, and for Ja Morant to be looking at this coaching staff and not feeling it after his last coaching staff also just dealt with it, that was, 6 months ago? It's not a good look. He got to his locker room for his availability, and he was asked a ton of questions by the media, and most of these questions ended up with him saying, go ask the coaching staff, go ask the coaching staff, go ask the coaching staff. They think that the answer to this is to not play me. The NBA is close to leaving Ja Morant behind, man. And that's so crazy to say because he is immensely talented. He is really good still, even after he just quit on the team against the Lakers. First game of the season, I was like, oh, snap. 12 is back. This is what happened. He's going against the Pelicans, who were just god-awful at this moment in time. He also had the game winner just a week ago. And now for it to look like this, it's just bad. Now, everybody that will look at the stats for Ja Morant will recognize that his frequency of getting to the rim has dropped every single season since that 22 year where we talked about him being the 9th best player in basketball. It's dropped time and time again. Ja Morant's a thin-framed, athletic guy that has not been able to really get his jump shot going. So getting to the basket was the one thing that was his superpower. And we've seen this before. These ultra-athletic point guards who struggle with shooting the ball, they have what feels like a limited time of being one of the best players in basketball because it's dangerous. Derrick Rose said in the midst of the year or two after his MVP season that the thing that he is striving for is to be able to stand up and walk with his son PJ when he graduates. The basketball wasn't on top of mind. It was a life after basketball because of how many injuries and how many times he got knocked to the deck as a small, high-flying guard. And somehow, Ja Morant is even smaller than that Derrick Rose guy. So it's about the in-between game. And I think that Ja Morant, his floater is still pretty good. I don't have the numbers to prove that, but his floater is still really good. But the fact that he is not a jump shooter, he cannot shoot the ball, and he's also not getting downhill, it's not that much of a threat, at least comparing him to his 2022 self. Everybody will talk about the numbers of him getting to the rim, but sometimes it's not even just about the attempts at the rim. It's about just the drives, because sometimes just driving to the basket, kicking it out is a win, right? One of the reasons I was really high on KCP going back to the Memphis Grizzlies is because Ja Morant has been a generator of corner threes his entire career. That's just been his thing. And KCP went from a team that can't generate anything. Hell, they brought in a shooter and still can't generate shots, right? But now you look at those drives per game from Ja Morant and compare it to the last couple seasons, it's dropped off. Last year, the year before that, he was averaging over 20 drives per game. That number is down to 14. 14, 6 less drives a game. So I mean, 6 less opportunities to kick out, 6 less opportunities to finish at the rim. And if you go back to 2021, which is the year before he had that big jump to end up at the 9th best player in basketball, talk about how much we loved him. CBS Sports did a 25 under 25. It's one of my favorite lists. It kind of encapsulates how we're thinking about young players as they continue to progress. Luka was number 1 on that list. Trae Young was number 2. Then it was Ja Morant. What a fall off. What a fall off. And this moment has everybody talking about, okay, what could this mean for the Grizzlies? Could they potentially be out of the Ja Morant business sooner rather than later? They obviously felt some type of way about the team that they had constructed, where they traded away Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic for 4 first-round picks and some stuff. Jaren Jackson Jr. was phenomenal last year. This year, not as good. So it's got me thinking, like, and maybe everybody else, if the Ja Morant and Memphis Grizzlies thing was going to end, what could that look like for Ja? What are the teams that could be interested in him? Some of the teams that come up immediately is like the Phoenix Suns, whose owner and Matt Ishbia is just a mad scientist and willing to trade anything and everything to get talent. You think about teams like the Houston Rockets, who lost Fred VanVleet. Again, these are not teams that I necessarily love to fit, but I'm thinking about the point guard position in general, because it's such a valuable position that most teams that are trying to go for it and trying to get better already have a point guard that they trust. And Ja Morant is not one of those dudes that you can play off of the ball. Again, his superpower is getting to the basket, even if you don't want to use that superpower often. The Toronto Raptors are also a team that comes up because they don't know what the hell they're doing, and they got some contracts to match, some young players or some draft capital that could potentially turn Ja Morant into a Toronto Raptor. It's weird because I love watching Ja play. I mean, I interviewed him right after his rookie season. He was a great dude to talk to. So I'm rooting for him, but I can't look past this as like immaturity is probably the best way I can describe it. Where obviously he's frustrated with the way the team is playing. He's frustrated maybe with this offense as well. I mean, he doesn't have Zach Edey to set those big ass screens. Jacques Landale's doing a decent job, but maybe he's frustrated with that. Or he just doesn't see the vision in Memphis like he once did. There's a time when Ja Morant was averaging 30-plus points in the playoff game, or in a playoff series, and I was like, oh, this man is a future. And now there's probably 12 to 13 point guards I'd rather have as my starting point guard today. That feels crazy because it wasn't too long ago we had him in number 4 or number 5. So if they were going to hit the quick reset, I mean, they already got some young players there that are pretty intriguing. They also got all those picks from the Orlando Magic. Maybe they just say that this current version of the Memphis Grizzlies is just not going to ever really cut it. And it's better to do that now rather than later. And they seem to be somewhat proactive when they traded Desmond Bane.